I always knew I was just there. Not the golden child, not the troublemaker. Just the one in between. Easily forgotten. Growing up in Willow Creek, small town where everyone knew everyone, you'd think being ignored by your own family would be impossible. But my parents had a talent for it. Olivia, my older sister, was their pride and joy. She could do no wrong even when she did. If she failed a test, they blamed the teacher. If she broke something, they laughed it off. If I so much aside too loudly, I was being dramatic. It started with little things. No plate saved for me at dinner. Olivia taking my stuff without asking. Knowing I wouldn't be defended if I complained. I tried to be the good daughter, good grades. No trouble, always helping out. It never mattered. But one night, after coming home from my part-time job at Grover's Market, the first realized something. It wasn't that they forgot about me. It was that they never cared to begin with. I stepped inside, exhausted, only to see Olivia sprawled on the couch. A half-eaten sandwich on the table. My backpack open, its contents scattered on the floor. I felt my stomach drop. Not again. Olivia, I said slowly, forcing my voice to stay even. Did you do? She barely glanced at me. Relax, she muttered, eyes still on her phone. Needed paper, took some. I bent down, flipping through my notebooks. Pages were missing. My notes, ones I'd spent hours on, were gone. I swallowed hard. Where are they? She smirked. To know, probably the trash. And that's when something inside me shifted. Not in a loud, angry way, but in a quiet, undeniable realization. I wasn't one of them. Not really. I took a deep breath, straightened my spine, and walked past her. That's when my parents walked in. That's when everything really fell apart. What's with the attitude? My dad's voice cut through the air as soon as he saw me, standing there, my ruined notebook clutched in my hands. His eyes narrowed, already irritated before I even spoke. I exhaled slowly. Stay calm. Don't let them turn this on you. Ask Olivia, I said, nodding toward my sister, who was still lounging on the couch. Like nothing had happened. She tore out my notes, threw them away. My mom barely spared Olivia a glance. It's just paper, she said with a dismissive wave. Just paper, my notes, hours of work on. Olivia smirked, stretching her arms lazily behind her head. Yeah, it's just paper. And just like that I knew I could ace every test, clean every room in this house, work myself to exhaustion, and they'd still never see me. To tighten my grip on my ruined notebook, my voice steady. Right. Of course. I turned to go upstairs, but my dad's voice stopped me. You know, he said, crossing his arms, this attitude is exactly why no one wants to be around you. I froze. What? I turned slowly, my pulse ringing in my ears. Mom sighed like she was already exhausted by me. You overreact to everything, Emily. Always playing the victim, always causing problems. Causing problems. I let out a bitter laugh for expecting basic respect, for not wanting my stuff trashed. Olivia rolled her eyes. God, you are so dramatic. It turned to my parents. You don't even see what's happening, do you? She does whatever she wants and I'm the problem. Dad's jaw tightened because she's not the one constantly whining. That hit hard, but not as hard as what came next. Olivia leaned back against the couch, her smirk widening. No one wants you here, Emily. I felt my stomach drop. But what really shattered me wasn't the words. It was my parents' reaction. They nodded, they actually nodded. Mom didn't say a word. Dad didn't argue. Just stood there silent. Like it was a fact they had accepted long ago. I didn't yell, I didn't beg for them to take it back. I just breathed. And in that moment something inside me went cold. Okay, I said simply. Then I turned and walked upstairs. I wasn't going to waste another second trying to belong in a place that had already decided I wasn't wanted that night. I packed my bags when I left. The night air was crisp. As I walked down the dimly lit streets of Willow Creek, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, I had no destination, no plan. Just the quiet determination that I was done. Done trying to earn a place in a family that had already made up their minds about me. The streets felt different at night. Emptier. Bakery on Main Street had long since closed its window. Dark except for the faint glow of the street lamp. Outside the grocery store where I worked, Grover's Market stood silent, its parking lot abandoned. I tightened my grip on my bag. Where do I go? I considered a motel, but I barely had enough saved up for a few nights, and I refused to burn through what little money I had. Then almost instinctively, my feet led me to the one place I knew I'd be welcome. Jake. He lived just a few blocks away, in a small apartment above his uncle's auto shop. We weren't best friends, not in the way that meant sharing secrets or spending every weekend together, but he was solid, reliable, the kind of person who never made you feel like you were too much. I hesitated for only a second before knocking. A moment later, door swung open. Jake stood there, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, his dark hair sticking up in all directions. He blinked at me, then at my bag. "You good?" His voice was rough with sleep. I forced to smirk. Define good. Jake didn't ask questions, just stepped aside and motioned for me to come in. The apartment was small but warm, cluttered with half-empty soda cans and car magazines. I dropped my bag by the couch, and sank into the cushions. Jake grabbed a blanket from the armrest, and tossed it at me. "Stay as long as you need." That was it. No prying, no judgment. Just an open door when I needed one. For the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my phone vibrating on the coffee table. 12 missed calls. I frowned, rubbing my eyes as I scrolled through the notifications. Mom, Dad, Olivia. Even some unknown numbers. Probably from my dad's work phone or my mom's friends. A steady stream of texts. "Mom, you're being immature. Come back, Dad. Enough of this nonsense. Stop acting like a child," I scoffed. Of course they weren't sorry. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They just didn't like losing control. I ignored the messages and set my phone down, pulling the blanket tighter around me. Then, just as I was about to shove my phone under the pillow, a new text popped up. "Mom, come home now, we have a problem." I set up, my pulse quickening. Problem. Curiosity itched at the back of my mind. I debated ignoring it, letting them sit in whatever mess they'd created. But my fingers betrayed me, typing out a simple response before I could stop myself. "Me, what happened?" Mom's reply was almost instant. "Mom, Olivia screwed up badly." I stared at the screen, a slow knowing realization settling in. They didn't want me back. They needed me. I leaned back against the couch, watching as more messages rolled in, each one more desperate than the last. "Dad, we don't have time for your attitude. Just come home, Mom, please, this is serious." That almost made me laugh. When my problems were serious, they told me to get over it. But now that Olivia was in trouble, suddenly it was urgent. I let them sweat for a few minutes before finally typing out my response. "Me, not my problem." I hit send and set my phone down, waiting. It didn't take long. The screen lit up again. This time it was my dad calling. I let it ring, then declined. A second later another text popped up. "Dad being selfish." I let out a sharp exhale, shaking my head. Selfish, that was rich coming from them. Then the final. "Mom, your sister's been arrested." I froze. That was unexpected. I grabbed Jake's car keys off the counter. "I need a ride." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Thought you were done with them." I smirked. There was no real humor in it. "Oh, I am, but I need to see this for myself." 15 minutes later, we pulled up in front of my parents' house. Dad was pacing on the porch, phone in hand, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. Mom sat on the steps, head in her hands. For the first time there was no laughter, no dismissive remarks, just panic. I took my time getting out of the car, stretching my arms before walking up the driveway. So I said, my voice light, "Who wants to tell me what happened?" Dad turned his eyes sharp. "Where the hell have you been?" I raised an eyebrow. "Not here like you wanted." He clenched his jaw. But before he could snap back, Mom spoke. "It's Olivia," she said, her voice shaking. She stole something from the wrong people." I frowned. "The wrong people?" Dad ran a hand down his face. "Some guys at that bar she hangs out at. We don't know all the details, but they called the cops. She's in holding right now." I nearly laughed. Of course Olivia had spent her whole life believing she could do whatever she wanted, that rules didn't apply to her. And now reality had finally caught up. Crossed my arms. "And what do you want me to do about it?" Mom gave me a desperate look. "We need money for a lawyer, bail, something. We need your help." I stared at her for a long moment. They needed me, but I didn't need them. After all the years of pushing me aside, treating me like I was nothing, now they were looking at me like I was their only hope. And in a way I was. I tilted my head slightly, a slow smirk forming. "Let me get this straight. I said you told me I was unwanted. You let Olivia treat me like garbage. You didn't care when I walked out. But now that she's in trouble, you suddenly remember I exist." Dad's jaw tightened. "This isn't about that. This is about family." I let out a short, sharp laugh. "Oh, now we're family. That's funny because last night I was a burden." Mom's eyes were pleading. "Please, we can talk about all of that later. Right now we need to get her out before this gets worse." I took a slow breath, pretending to think it over. "And how much money are we talking about?" Dad's side. "Bail is set at $10,000. We can pay a portion, but we need you to cover the rest." I whistled. 10 grand, huh? Sounds serious. Mom perked up slightly. "So you'll do it?" I smirked. "Oh, absolutely not. Their faces fell so fast I almost felt bad. Almost for a moment all I heard was silence. Then you're joking, my dad said, his voice tight, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. I shrugged, shifting my weight onto one foot. Nope. Mom's face crumpled. Emily, please, she's your sister. No, I corrected, tilting my head slightly. She's your daughter. And you made it very clear that I was never part of this family. Dad stepped forward, his anger barely restrained. You think you're proving a point? You think this is funny? I met his glare without flinching. No, I said evenly, I think it's fair. Mom reached for my arm, but I stepped back before she could touch me. We'll pay you back, I let out a sharp laugh. You think I trust you after everything? Her mouth opened then closed. She wanted to argue but had no words. I shook my head. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to figure this out without me, just like you always wanted. And I'm going to walk away just like you told me to. Then before they could say another word, I turned and walked back toward Jake's car. Dad's voice rang out behind me. Don't you dare walk away from us. I glanced over my shoulder, my smirk sharp. You already did it first. Then I got into the car, shut the door and drove away. I expected a sense of triumph to wash over me. Some grand satisfying feeling that I had finally won. Instead all I felt was hollow. Not because I regretted my decision, no. They had it coming. But because even after everything, even after begging for my help, knew the truth, they didn't see me as family. They saw me as a solution, a wallet, a safety net. And now that safety net was gone. That night I sat in Jake's apartment, curled up on the couch with a greasy burger from Tommy's Diner. It was peaceful quiet. The kind of night I hadn't had in years. Living under that roof, I had half a mind to turn my phone on silent. But when it buzzed again, I couldn't resist checking. Mom, we can work something out. Please, let's talk. Dad, your brother is still in jail, struggling to get the money together. I nearly choked on my soda. Now we're family. Now they cared. That was rich. I was about to ignore them when another message popped up. Dad, look, we can repay you, you just need to trust us. That one actually made me laugh out loud. Trust them, the same people who spent years treating me like an unwanted guest in my own home. Yeah, right. And then Olivia. Come on, Emily, you really gonna let me rot in here? Oh, this was too good. After everything she had put me through, after every insult, every time she made it clear I was nothing to her, now she wanted my help. I decided to have a little fun. Me, you told me no one wanted me around. Just respecting your wishes, delivered. Read no response. I smiled to myself, stretched my arms behind my head, and took another bite of my burger. Life was good. The next morning I woke up to a flood of messages, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. I unlocked my phone and scrolled through them. Apparently, things were getting rough for the family back home. Dad, we had to sell the TV and my golf clubs. Your mother is furious with me. Hope you're happy, Mom, please. We don't know what to do anymore. And then the best one yet. Olivia, I swear to God, when I get out, you better pray I don't find you. Now that was hilarious. The same girl who needed my help was threatening me. I couldn't resist me. That's some strong language for someone who needs my help. Try again. An entire hour passed before my mom finally swallowed her pride and sent another message. Mom, please, we're really struggling. I let her sit in that desperation for a few minutes before replying me. Tell you what, I'll bail Olivia out on one condition. Her reply came instantly. Mom, anything. I smirked. Me. I want a public apology. In the family group chat, a long one. You admit every horrible thing you've said to me. You thank me for helping. I could practically feel the hesitation through the phone. Dad's pride was probably cracking like glass. But if they wanted my help so badly, they'd have to grovel for it. Sure enough, it took them a while. But eventually, a new message popped up in the family group chat. Dad, we need to talk about how we've treated Emily. We've made mistakes. And we realize now how much we've hurt her. We deeply regret our words and actions. She is an important part of our family, and we are grateful for her generosity in helping us during this difficult time. It was stiff-forced, completely humiliating for them. Perfect. I gave them a simple thumbs up emoji. Then I went about my day. Did I actually bail Olivia out? Haha, absolutely not. But at least one finally got the apology I had always deserved. A week passed. I expected the texts to stop after I ignored their desperate pleas. But they didn't. If anything, they got worse. My dad had gone from demanding to pathetic aesthetic. My mom cycled between guilt-tripping and pleading. Olivia went from threats to silence. Good. I had been tempted just once to drive past my old house and see if things had truly crumbled the way they made it seem. But I refused to give them that satisfaction. Then yesterday afternoon my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. But something told me to pick up Emily. It was Olivia. I didn't say anything. Just leaned back in my chair waiting. "I can't believe you did this to me," she growled. "I thought you were better than this." I laughed, not out of anger but amusement. "Then what, giving you exactly what you asked for?" She was silent for a moment. And I could almost picture her, seething on the other end. "You know what," she snapped. "Fine. Be petty, be vindictive. But don't think this makes you a better person." I smirked. I don't, but it sure as hell makes me a happier one." I could hear something slam in the background. Maybe her fist against a wall. Or the phone against a hard surface. "You're really just going to leave me in here?" I tilted my head, pretending to think. Yeah. A bitter laugh came from her side of the line. "You think you've won?" I leaned forward, my voice dropping to something cold. "No, Olivia, I know I have." Then I hung up. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. Not because she stopped trying, no. My parents continued their desperate attempts to get me to change my mind. My mom even showed up at Grover's Market one night, standing outside my work like some tragic figure from a movie. I didn't even acknowledge her, just walked right past her, letting the automatic doors shut in her face. She had lost the right to my attention. The moment she nodded in agreement with Olivia. Eventually the call stopped. The text slowed. I heard whispers from old neighbors that my dad had to take out a loan to cover Olivia's legal fees. My mom had started selling off things around the house, jewelry, furniture, even Olivia's car, to keep them afloat. And Olivia, she stayed in jail. Her charges were more serious than they initially thought. And by the time my parents scraped together enough money, the damage was already done. They had spent their whole lives covering for her, shielding her from consequences. Not this time. This time reality had teeth, and I thrived. For the first time in my life I was free. Free from the suffocating weight of trying to be good enough for people who never wanted me. To be free to live for myself. To make choices that didn't revolve around earning love. That was never there to begin with. And it was glorious. I got a promotion at work. Moved out of Jake's apartment and into my own place. Started taking night classes, thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd go for a degree after all. I built a life, a good one. And every once in a while, when I glanced at my phone, and saw an old text from my mom or dad, I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing. Because in the end they weren't worth it. Never were, and that was the best revenge of all. Story 2. You know, that feeling when you're in a room full of people, but somehow you're still completely alone. Yeah, that was my childhood in a nutshell. I'm Lauren, 26 years old, the youngest of 3 siblings. My parents, Richard and Diane, were the kind of people who loved the idea of a picture perfect family, on the surface at least. Adored my older brothers Ethan and Ryan, showering them with praise, attention, and anything they could ask for. Me, I was just there, an afterthought. If our family had been a movie, I would have been the nameless extra in the background. Ethan, the eldest, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He was charming, brilliant, and my parents' pride and joy. Ryan, the middle child, was the fun one, the athlete, the guy everyone wanted to be friends with. And then there was me, quiet, overlooked, easily forgotten. I have 100 stories that prove how little I mattered to them, but one stands out the most. I was 9 years old. School had ended early because of a storm, and every kid got picked up except me. I sat on the front steps watching the sky darken, my uniform clinging to my skin. As the rain turned into a downpour, I waited and waited and waited. Hours passed, the school emptied out. Finally the janitor, a kind old man named Mr. Jacobs, came out and asked if I had someone coming. "They're probably just running late," I told him, though even then I wasn't sure I believed it. It wasn't until the sky was pitch black that I finally gave up. No phone, no one left to call. I walked home soaked to the bone, my shoes squelching with every step. When I got there, my mom was sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine. She glanced up at me. "I just come back from a casual stroll. Instead of being stranded at school for hours." "Oh," she said, "you're back. There's food in the fridge." That was it. No apology, no concern. No questions about why I had to walk home in the storm. My dad wasn't home. My brothers were glued to their video games. No one even noticed I was missing. That wasn't an isolated incident. It happened again and again. My teacher started offering to drive me home, because my parents forgot to pick me up. So often. It wasn't just school rides, so it was everything. Birthdays were a joke. My mom would throw parties, but they weren't for me. They were an excuse for her to invite her friends and their kids. barely even knew the people who showed up. One year I overheard her telling someone, "Lauren doesn't really have friends, so I just invited whoever." Ethan and Ryan weren't any better. Whenever I tried to talk about something I was proud of, a good grade, a new hobby, I got shot down. Ethan would smirk and say, "That's cute, Lauren," like I was a toddler showing off a crayon drawing. Ryan would roll his eyes and mutter, "Stop trying so hard." At some point I stopped trying altogether. If they weren't going to notice me, I'd make sure I was invisible. But I had a plan. I worked my ass off in school, pouring everything into my grades and extracurriculars. I was determined to prove to myself, if no one else said, I mattered. By the time I was in high school, I was acing every class. When I was named valedictorian, I felt like I had finally done something worth celebrating. I sent out invitations to my graduation, hoping, praying that just this once my family would show up. They didn't. I stood on that stage, scanning the crowd, hoping to see them. Their seats were empty. Later I found out why. My parents had gone to Ryan's basketball game instead. A regular season game. Not a championship, not even an important match. Just an average, meaningless game. That was the moment it all clicked. I wasn't a part of their world. I never had been. So when it came time for college, I knew exactly what I had to do. I got the hell out. Leaving for college felt less like a milestone and more like an escape. I applied to schools far away, knowing deep down that if I stayed anywhere close, my family would continue treating me like background noise. The day I got my acceptance letter, I didn't even bother telling them. What was the point? Ethan got a brand new car when he graduated. Ryan had his entire dorm. Intuition paid for me nothing, not a dime. So I figured I was on my own, and honestly that was fine. I scraped by on scholarships, student loans, and a part-time job at a bookstore. The owner, Miss S. Kensington, was this sweet older woman who took me under her wing. She'd always make me tea before my shift and ask how school was going, something my actual parents never did. Over time she became more of a mother figure to me than my own mom. I also started therapy. At first, it felt weird talking to a stranger about my life. But Dr. Morales didn't just listen, she heard me. She helped me understand something I had spent years trying to ignore. Their neglect wasn't my fault. I wasn't broken or unworthy. I was just born into a family that never saw me. And then the guilt trip started. At first it was subtle. My mom would leave passive-aggressive voicemails like, "Haven't heard from you in a while. Too busy for family." My dad would text, "I miss you," which was hilarious, considering how little they cared when I actually lived under their roof. I ignored them. Then came the final straw. I went home for a visit mostly because I felt obligated. But the moment I walked through the door, I heard my dad talking to a neighbor. "Oh, we only have 2 kids," he said casually. "We only have 2 kids. My mom chimed in laughing. "Ethan and Ryan keep us plenty busy." They weren't even trying to be discreet. I stood there frozen as it sank in. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it wasn't an accident. They had erased me from their lives. So I decided to return the favor. That night I packed my bags and left early. I didn't say goodbye, I didn't leave a note. I just walked out. And that was the moment I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't just be the forgotten child. I would be the one who forgot them. The next day I got to work. Step 1: block their numbers. I went through my phone and cut off every single contact. My parents, my brothers, aunts, uncles. Anyone who could try to rope me back in. Step 2: purge my social media. I unfriended them all, wiped out old pictures, made sure they couldn't see anything about my life. Step 3: remove them from anything official. My parents were still listed as my emergency contacts. That had to change. I updated everything: my workplace, my doctor, my school. I put my best friend, Julia, as my emergency contact instead. She didn't even hesitate when I asked. Step 4: cut off their financial access. Not that they ever gave me money, but I wanted to make sure they had zero control. I combed through my bank accounts, my student loans, everything. Their names weren't on anything, but I double-checked just in case. Step 5: get rid of the so-called family friends. You know, those people who act like they care but really just enable the toxic behavior. Yeah, I had plenty of those. The ones who would say stuff like, "Your parents mean well," or "They love you in their own way." I stopped replying to their texts, stopped answering their calls, and just like that, they faded into the background. But of course not everyone took it quietly. My extended family started calling me ungrateful. My Aunt Linda left me a voicemail saying, "You're being unfair to your parents. They love you." And Uncle sent me a long Facebook message about how family is everything. And you'll regret this one day. I deleted them both without responding. Meanwhile, my actual friends were beyond supportive. Julia reminded me every day that I didn't owe my family anything. My small, but tight-knit group started inviting me to dinners, making sure I never felt alone. One of them even joked, "You're basically auditioning for a new family." And honestly, they weren't wrong. Then came the legal stuff. My parents had once listed me as a beneficiary on a small trust fund. I wanted nothing to do with it. I hired a lawyer to make sure my name was removed from everything, any family properties, accounts or documents they could use against me. It felt good, knowing they couldn't hold anything over me. My parents didn't like that though. The messages started coming in through mutual acquaintances. They called me dramatic, selfish, ungrateful. They demanded I come home and fix this. I ignored them. Then Ethan and Ryan got involved. Ethan sent me a, "You're taking this too far. Mom and Dad love you." Ryan followed up with, "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Just come home and talk it out." Neither of them acknowledged the years of neglect. Neither of them apologized. So I ignored them too. A week later, my dad left me a voicemail. His voice angry and strained. "You're being ridiculous. We raised you and this is how you repay us. You're causing unnecessary drama. Call us back." I deleted the message halfway through. While all of this was happening, something incredible happened. I got a huge promotion at work. In another life, I might have called my parents to tell them, but instead, I celebrated with the people who actually cared. Julia took me out for dinner. My friend surprised me with cake. For the first time in my life I felt seen. And that's when I realized, I didn't miss my family at all. I missed the idea of what they should have been. The holidays rolled around, and for the first time I spent them alone. No forced family gatherings. No sitting at the dinner table feeling like I didn't belong. I made myself a cozy meal, put on my favorite movies, and actually enjoyed the quiet. Over the next few months I kept building my own life, my own family, but my parents weren't done yet. They made one last, desperate attempt, this time through a mutual acquaintance. "Your mom had a health scare," the message said. "She's been asking about you." I didn't buy it for a second. They had pulled this trick before, trying to guilt me back in. Not this time. I didn't even respond because by then I knew the truth. I was finally free. The silence was the first thing I noticed. After months of them trying to guilt me, manipulate me and reel me back in, my parents finally stopped. No more texts, no more voicemails, no more flying monkeys, coming out of nowhere to tell me how wrong I was. At first I expected it to be some kind of trick. That any day now, get another dramatic message about how I was ruining the family. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Nothing. It was weird at first. Like standing in a room that had been loud for so long. That silence felt unnatural, but it felt good. I could breathe for the first time in my life. I wasn't carrying the weight of people who never cared about me, so I kept moving forward. The next step was removing every last trace of them. First I tackled my social media. I had already unfriended my family, but now I went deeper. I scrolled through every post, every tag, every old photo connected to them, birthdays, holidays, even those forced family portraits my mom used to make us take. Gone. It was tedious but strangely satisfying, like cleaning out a house you'd been trapped in for years. Then I took it a step further. It changed my last name. I wanted nothing tying me to them, not even legally. I spent weeks gathering the paperwork, going to the courthouse, making sure it was official. When the judge signed off on it, I felt something lift off my shoulders. My new name was mine, belonged to me and no one else. My next move was making sure they couldn't interfere in my life in any way. I met with my lawyer again, updating my will, securing my assets, and ensuring my parents had zero claim over anything connected to me. One last thing, the part that shocked even me. I found out my state allowed me to edit my birth certificate, to remove parental names. I filed the paperwork immediately. I wasn't just cutting them off, I was erasing them. Of course some people didn't take it well. My extended family started creeping back in, confused about why I disappeared. My aunts and uncles, the same ones who had ignored me for years, suddenly needed answers. I sent out one last short, simple, no room for discussion. I am no longer in contact with my parents or brothers. This is my choice. Please respect that. If you cannot, I will remove you from my life as well. Some didn't respond. A few sent back long-winded messages about how much this would hurt my parents. I didn't reply. Instead I posted a final message on social media. Sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about the people who show up for you. I'm grateful for my chosen family. Real love, real support, real care. That's all that matters now. People noticed. My parents' perfect image had already started cracking. But this was the moment everything fell apart for them. The messages came in fast. Friends, acquaintances, even distant relatives started questioning them. Wait, why did Lauren cut you off? Didn't you guys miss her graduation? Isn't she the one you always forgot to pick up from school? My parents panicked. They tried damage control, posting online about how heartbroken they were, about how they didn't know what went wrong, about how parenting is hard, and sometimes kids don't understand it. Backfire. People weren't buying it. Too many knew the truth, and they weren't afraid to call them out. That's when the last message came. Jason, my golden child brother, emailed me. You've embarrassed the family enough. Take down whatever you posted. Consider yourself dead to us. I laughed because that was the whole point, wasn't it? I had already considered them dead to me, so I didn't respond. I blocked the email and I moved on. Life got better. I kept thriving at work. One had gotten a major promotion. And for the first time, I felt valued in a place that recognized my hard work. No one ignored me. No one treated me like I was invisible. Then something unexpected happened. A literary agent reached out. After reading my Reddit post, they said my story had the potential to be a book, something that could help others going through the same thing. At first I hesitated. Did I really want to relive all of this? And I want to put everything out there for the world to see. But then I thought about how many people had reached out, how many had said, your story gave me the courage to leave too. And I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. So I said yes. Meanwhile, my chosen family grew stronger. Julia and I started a tradition: Sunday dinners. Sometimes it was just the two of us. Sometimes our whole friend group joined in. It was simple but meaningful. For the first time in my life, I had real family traditions. Ones that felt like mine, not something forced or fake. Then one day something happened that tested everything. I ran to my parents. I was at a coffee shop waiting for my order. When they walked in, they looked smaller, older. My dad's hair was grayer, my mom thinner. They didn't see me and I didn't give them the chance. I grabbed my coffee and walked out without looking back. Later I found out through a former neighbor that my parents' social standing had collapsed. Their once perfect image was ruined. People had started to distance themselves, questioning why their own daughter had gone to such extreme lengths to disappear. And my brothers, they turned on each other. For years they had been a united front against me, but now that I was gone they had no one else to blame. I heard they started fighting over who was the favorite, who had it worse, who was responsible for ruining the family. The irony was almost too perfect. By then I didn't care, I had better things to focus on. I bought my first house. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted: warm, cozy, full of life. Then I adopted a dog. A scruffy little terrier mix named Milo became my shadow, following me everywhere. Later, I got a second dog, a golden retriever mix named Daisy. My tiny chaotic little family. Then something even more unexpected happened. I fell in love. It wasn't instant, it wasn't dramatic. It was simple. Someone who saw me, who listened, who cared in all the ways my family never did. And that's when I realized I had everything I had ever wanted. Love, support, family, a home that actually felt like home. And my parents, they were nothing more than a distant. I was finally truly free, and that's the life I chose. No regrets, no second guessing, just me moving forward, never looking back. And honestly, it's the best decision I've ever made.